The following transmission is a conversation with Zealotlee, modeler, modder, and creative lead for Fallout New Vegas mods such as The Long 15 and Project Nevada. Zeal has a long history in the Fallout community, spanning all the way back to modding for Fallout 3. More recently, though, she's lent her creative abilities that she has honed over the years to the full fruition of the Long 15 project, and continues to create high-quality weapon and asset mods for her own projects, as well as large-scale mods for the Fallout New Vegas modding community. Over the course of our conversation, we'll talk about the ways in which the Fallout community, as well as the gaming space, has changed over recent years, and Zeal's past before and after entering the Fallout modding scene, and what the future of gaming, and more specifically Bethesda and Fallout, might look like. I am follower Toshi, and this is the Atomcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow for future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to help keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. As always, links to our Patreon, as well as guest socials, can be found in the description, and be sure to leave a comment recommending creators who you'd like to see as future guests. Without further ado, Zealotlee. So I think one of the biggest things when it comes to most of the guests that I have on, it's like there's always sort of a larger for like guests specifically, because I had somebody ask me this on stream before. They asked basically like, like how do you pick, who you're going to bring on the show, right? How do you choose who you're going to interview and stuff? And sometimes it's like, they'll just approach me, right? Like when I had Fabu Jack on from the New West team, he reached out to me, and I think that's because somebody told him about my podcast, I think, if I remember correctly. But then other times I'll reach out to people, on my own, like I did with Cord or Nywall or Lawrence McNamara from the Modus Files, like all these other individuals. Like I'll usually reach out to them because it's a smaller platform comparatively speaking. But to get back on track there, usually there's a lot more modders to pick from. Funnily enough, because modders are not only more plentiful, but also at times are a little bit more public facing, right? Usually when it comes to different creators or creatives, they're
Depends
usually
on the modder.
Huh?
It depends on the modder. Sorry to interrupt.
It does obviously depend on the modder, but there's a lot more like we're like actively trying to put our stuff out there for other people to see. So they're usually a little, again, like you said, depends on the modder, but usually, especially when they're involved with like a big project, they're trying to be a little bit more like, blowing the megaphone, like this is me, this is how I do. So, more people are aware of them. But at the same time,
marketing is very important. And I think it's a lot of things some modders don't really utilize to their advantage. They just hope they put it on the Nexus and be like, people will think that looks cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, but sometimes you got to build hype.
There is the challenge of like natural growth versus the like constant engagement. And I think that's where a lot of people definitely fall short, where it's like, I just put it out there and people like naturally find it. Like, yeah, that happens sometimes, but sometimes, yeah, you need to be a little bit more proactive about it.
Yeah, again, it's about being in like the spaces where you know about these things. Like if you're just a random person coming to Nexus looking for a modded playthrough, chances are you're not going to like, if you don't stick around, you're not going to discover like the evolution of the mods in the game. Like, because within the past few years, you've seen a lot of like crazy scripting magic, with like certain new features, and obviously shout out to Wall and the modding cabal, out there, that basically they kind of like make the script extenders and determine what people can do more with, because there's just things that weren't possible in previous years.
what's the like recently, like in maybe like the past like 2 years or so, what's like the biggest thing that
In the past 2 years, I don't know, because I like it just seems like a lot of it was I came back to the modding scene in like 2023. So by that point, you all the major script extenders show, XNVSE, JIP, what's the other one? Show off, like all Johnny Guitar, all those had already been out and established, and like were kind of like required for most things. I think what you're seeing a lot more recently is just really cool features that people hadn't really messed with before. Big shout out to Stentorius and his mods for like the really cool like Pip-Boy animation stuff and just like little immersive touches that they really are very well done and add a nice touch to the game. Are you familiar with his work? Like, have you seen those on Nexus? It's like the one of the popular ones, like you see a lot of YouTubers with the Pip-Boy like location marker animation. It's like when you discover a location, you pull out your Pip-Boy to the map on the location and actually like activate it. It's really neat.
I don't think I am familiar. If regardless though, like fill us in a little bit more. What's the breakdown there?
That kind of was the whole breakdown of the thing. It's like it's a smaller little mod. It's not like a massive overhaul, but it's like a little touch that's like immersive and also wasn't something that wasn't really possible for KNVSE, the animation engine, which has been around for a few years now, good number of years. It's a blessing to have, I'll say that, as someone who has essentially experienced two separate eras of modding this game, like from way back when the game first came out to like now where you have like a lot more to work with. Which this is actually the kind of backing of one of my more hot takes, I think, and maybe some modders would agree, but a lot of people off the bat wouldn't. I don't think there should be a New Vegas remaster.
Okay,
and I'll tell you why.
Please do. That's definitely gonna get some questions.
Play the Oblivion remaster. It was fun. It was fun. I had a good time with it. I played a lot of it. But when I looked into how the modding side of things worked, my heart dropped because it sank. It's not. But to put it plainly, that game is essentially two game engines on top of each other. You have the old Gamebryo engine, and you have a stack of Unreal 5. That's like enhancing everything and doing all the fancy new features and blah blah blah. Some mods for like some of the very first mods for Oblivion that did not require script extenders were able to be used. But anything with custom assets or any special functionality beyond that required a script extender, you couldn't use it. And because of the whole asset pipeline with Unreal 5, it kind of really sets the bar very high, so that a lot of people don't really have that same barrier of entry, if it's even really possible to kind of add custom assets without them just being mere replacers. As far as I understand it, it's the modding potential is not there yet. And if a New Vegas remaster came out, I probably would buy it. I probably would play it, but I don't think I would stick with it just because it's not, it's not an experience that you can kind of craft yourself or create like your ideal version of New Vegas with modding and everything. You're just kind of stuck with vanilla, what they throw at you, which, it's still great. It's still like, there's a reason we all love New Vegas is because the vanilla game's fucking amazing. But as far as the modding potential of it and its longevity, more importantly, I would be concerned.
So I guess here's the natural question that sort of arises within me, right? So I've been a fan of the Fallout franchise ever since Fallout 3 first dropped, and I've been creating content around the Fallout franchise for the last, number of years. I'm not going to say how many years specifically to, avoid staring into the abyss until 3 a.m. Tonight, wondering what I've done with my life.
Oh, I'm right there with you.
Right. But the point is,
Modding is my biggest claim to fame, and I'm almost 40.
right. My point, though, is I've been doing it for a while. I've been involved in the Fallout franchise for a long time. And there's a lot of people, myself included, that put forward the argument that Fallout under Bethesda has sort of been maybe not propped up, but a large segment of the community has been the modding community. And it's something that Bethesda has leaned into and has continued to lean into as both as some naysayers might say, to fix the games that they themselves couldn't be bothered to finish. But then also to enhance the games, right? So obviously you have mods that are more so designed to make the game more stable, make it run a little bit better, this, that, and the other thing. But then you have other mods like Sim Settlements 2 for Fallout 4, or New Vegas bounties for New Vegas that are designed to enhance the vanilla story or the vanilla gameplay experience. On that, though, because modding is so heavily tied in to the community, is there, to what degree, rather, do you think that there's validity in claiming that while, as you said, a New Vegas Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas remaster coming out would be very fun, much like the Oblivion remaster would be, would they inherently, by their very nature of how much the community has sort of leaned into modability for these games, to what degree do you think that there's a higher likelihood that they are going to inherently be disappointing because they don't offer the same sort of modability as the original games?
I think you would get a much less like played game over time by that. Just like you're gonna have that initial burst. People are gonna get like people, especially people who never had the chance to play any of the games and didn't feel like doing mods or whatever. Or, oh, I thought the graphics look bad or something. But they get to play it, they have a good time, they hate it, whatever the case may be, right? They don't play it again. They don't come back to it. They don't be like, wow, there's this really cool new like quest expansion called Long 15 for New Vegas. I should re-download New Vegas and play that because it looks really cool. For context, I was one of the lead developers on Long 15. It was a Whiteout. Toxic Whiteout is the lead developer of the whole thing and has done a fantastic job with like leading the team and getting that all together and just working his ass off on it. Honestly, he deserves all the credit.
Yeah, and that's also a good point. Like with especially these larger mods for New Vegas specifically, with like New California, Long 15, upcoming ones. Like I mean, we've had several of them on the podcast myself with the New West, Adam's Ashes, this, that, and the other thing, and even to the degree more controversial ones like the Frontier, and which in and of itself is also getting a remaster and a remake and stuff like that. The point is
coming along well.
Yeah. The point is though that these bigger mods, these bigger projects that are going for the original game are not going to be playable or available for this any potential remaster or remake. Like you said, it's going to be more of, well, I mean, maybe like you didn't say specifically, but I think the insinuation is definitely that it's going to be more of a nostalgia or like a sort of like a FOMO experience where like, hey, I missed out on playing these games originally, because that's what I did. I went into the Oblivion remaster having never played the original Oblivion, but I always heard that it was like really, really good. So when I actually got to play it, I'm playing it. And, as a more modern gamer with modern gamer expectations, I definitely saw some shortcomings in like the gameplay mechanics as well as the story itself.
But at the same time, I also have incredibly fond memories of playing video games back in the 90s and early 2000s. And so I'm sitting there and I'm playing it and like, oh man, I can see how, like, oh man, this shit blew people's brains back in the early 2000s. Like, I can tell if I'd had my hands on this, it would have been sending me.
The first time I saw like an N64 in action, I was blown away. Like, it wasn't even out yet. They were doing like, my parents took me to like some demo at some store somewhere. I was a little kid.
Mhm.
And I eventually got one, and it was just, it was the peak graphics at the time. It's like, wow, this is so cool.
Right? It's amazing.
And then like the jump to like the PS2 era. Oh my god, especially with like, are you a Metal Gear Solid fan?
Funnily enough, I wasn't until I got in until Metal Gear Solid 5, and then I went back, and while I didn't play the originals, I watched the movie versions where it's like all the cutscenes and stuff,
Yeah.
and like
So
that was my whole experience.
The jump from Metal Gear 1 on the PS1 to 2 on the PS2.
Oh no,
like,
yeah, that's
its
huge.
time was absolutely mind blowing.
That was gigantic.
Like, holy shit. The fact that you could go into first person and shoot the pots and pans and they would react to getting shot was huge at the time.
To be fair,
like,
literally
that just wasn't
anything,
a thing.
Literally anything Kojima does though is like groundbreaking and revolutionary, because he's the one who in Metal Gear Solid 1
Absolute
was the
Kojima.
video game that invented cutscenes.
That was one thing I was disappointed with by 5. It has the best gameplay of all the Metal Gear games. It's super fun, and the variety of builds and tactics and ways you can do things is really fun. The story was really lackluster, especially compared to the previous games. Like,
yeah,
the previous games had these like really bombastic stories, and it just felt like very, I don't know, like it was sort of grounded, but also like it had like its moments of ridiculousness. Not that 5 doesn't have its moments of ridiculousness, but it didn't hit the same narratively. Like, it felt more like, yeah, you're just like kind of doing stuff, and then story happens like sometimes when you do the stuff. It's not like you're playing the story the whole time. And the older Metal Gear games definitely felt more like that.
Yeah, because they were like more linear. They were written to be like a linear story, whereas Metal Gear Solid 5 was written to be more of a, not open, it was still pretty linear, but it tailored much more to like an open world sort of feel. So there was a little bit more emphasis on like base building and unit, recruitment and stuff like that, which for an open world game, I guess that makes sense. On that specifically though, with the Oblivion remake, one of the more noteworthy things, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this one, is that they included sprinting in the remake, which wasn't actually a function in the original.
I believe so. I want to say yes.
Yeah.
I know sprinting was definitely not a thing in Morrowind. Are you a Morrowind enjoyer? Do you like are you a fan of the Morrojank?
I didn't get into Elder Scrolls until Skyrim. I'm a fake fan. I hate to say it.
Morrowind is one of those games that it was the first Elder Scrolls game I played. I played it on the Xbox of all things.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have an Xbox or that game, so like I remember trying to desperately search it, like, is there a game like this on PS2? Is there? And there wasn't.
Nope.
There wasn't a big open world game like that where you had like this crazy amount of freedom as to what you could do, and it was amazing. And yes, it was a little janky and used a dice roll combat, so you had to like kind of read extra into how to make a character that works. But once you did, and once you kind of got into the world and everything, it's just really cool. And I eventually got it for PC, which because it could run on a potato, and started with like downloading mods for that too. Mods for Morrowind. I think that was the first Bethesda game I downloaded mods for.
To the I think point that I'm getting at here is like they made in the case that they did actually include the ability to sprint in Oblivion, whereas previous they didn't. Which, I mean, I guess the audience will correct us on that one. But if they did, conceptually, they brought a more modern mechanic or modern inclusion into the remaster of Elder Scrolls Oblivion. If they were to, with a Fallout 3 and a Fallout New Vegas remake, such as, you know, like in Fallout 4, you have the ability to not only like hold and fire a gun, but then also can, you know, throw a grenade at the same time, like equip and throw a grenade. And then you have obviously, you know, sprinting, which wasn't a thing in 3 or 4.
No, it was in 4. It wasn't in New Vegas.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, excuse me. 3 in New Vegas. That's what I meant. It wasn't in there. It wasn't 4. But then, you know, other mechanics like weapon modding or like base building and stuff like that. To the point though, if they were to bring more modern game elements into a remake of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, akin to something, you know, like from Fallout 76 or Fallout 3, or sorry, Fallout 4, do you think that would help more so in the longevity of the games themselves, bringing more of these modern gaming mechanics, which I would argue Bethesda is really good at? Bethesda's good at the mechanical side of game making, the featurette side of game making, and these features, if they were to be brought into a 3 or a New Vegas experience, do you think that would help with the longevity? And would it be enough to sort of maybe not, you know, replace the modability of these games? Because I feel like there'd still be people who would mod New Vegas like a remaster, but not to the same degree. So do you think more modern elements would help support the games at the sacrifice of the modability?
If you make it part of the initial experience to begin with, I think my original point still stands is, well, that's the game that's out. You know what I mean? Like, I think it will help attract a bigger base at first and help like be like, oh, I've played the newer Fallout, so this looting system is familiar. One of the most popular modding lists that people go with is Viva New Vegas for New Vegas. And it has a section that has some more modern features like enhanced movement, sprinting, going prone. You also have things like that are included, like with the picture-in-picture optics with like B42 optics, or like the looting system, as I mentioned. That basically it's more of like a 476 style loot quick box that comes up that you could just quickly grab stuff out of. I think that things like that are really handy and help speed up some like slow, tedious parts of the gameplay, like going through containers and stuff like that. So I'm not entirely opposed to things that make the game play better. New Vegas isn't exactly known for its amazing shooting mechanics to begin with either. It's better than 3, but it still is, pretty janky. Not really like ideal, but it all works somehow. Sometimes it works until it doesn't.
Would you be more in favor of these games being brought back as like a remake where they completely rebuild the game, or a remaster where in the sense they just basically like, put a shiny cover on the game itself? In other words, do you like older games being brought back in like a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth kind of way, or in the I hate that my default is going to the GTA San Andreas remaster because that was awful. But, games that are basically, like I said, just the original game with that shiny veneer on top of it. Maybe similar to like the Oblivion remaster.
Yeah, that is what Oblivion Remastered basically was. Like, it literally just it was the same game underneath. Like, the same old game. Like, it was just a lot of replaced assets and, like, kind of like a weird, like, outer engine layer. Again, A remake would be there wouldn't really be a guarantee that modding would work or be welcomed depending on what engine they decided to even remake it in. But if modding was welcome into it, then I think it would have a good chance of like picking up a new scene or having people basically port mods from like the old New Vegas to the new Vegas, like quest mods and stuff like that. Um, with the way they kind of do their remasters now, I don't think that I would prefer that they would just remake it. I just know that the effort required to do that is massive, and they are most certainly going to make changes that people don't like. Which I only played like maybe 20 hours of the Final Fantasy VII remake, the first part. So I didn't get terribly far, but they definitely made things different from the original game. Like expanded out things and changed things around that maybe didn't fit the original vision. So I assume that would also be a consequence of a New Vegas remake.
Do you think that Bethesda relies too much on the modding community? Or do you think that the modding community for what I mean, I guess specifically in this case, the modding community is already a fandom of the series. But do you think that it's a case where Bethesda is becoming more and more comfortable creating more streamlined games that are more open to modability? Or do you think it's Bethesda adjusting to what they see from the fandom as, you know, a larger interest in a sense? And to that degree, do you think that's a beneficial relationship, a beneficial balance? Is it even Stevens in a way?
I don't think Bethesda really. To say that they don't care about the modding community is untrue. They absolutely do. But they are not really the primary focus. And the fact that they at least give us some modability in at least their main like creation engine releases is nice. I personally have not modded for Starfield. I really don't know many people that do like actively mod for Starfield aside from like maybe Eleonora
And King
um
Gath.
and King Gath. Yeah, those are the two big ones right now.
Mhm.
But I were a lot of the people who like went to go check out Starfield as for modding potential, they went back to their respective games. The Skyrim modders went back to the Skyrim mods, and the Fallout modders went back to their respective Fallout game. 4 goes back to 4, and New Vegas go back to New Vegas. And then you have like the crazy ones who mod 3 still. Like not Tale of Two Wastelands, 3. Like original 3.
Yeah,
That's just great.
the OGs of the OGs.
That is where I got started though. Like my first mods that I released were for Fallout 3. It was a Dragonov.
Yeah, it was the same with Porterwolf, the lead dev on Empire Waste. It was some of his earlier mods and some of his like prototypes for Empire Waste were Fallout 3 mods, which is crazy.
Yeah, wow. But anywho, that's it's dedication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's all about the hustle. Speaking of which, to get more on, the subject of this interview, you also have been hustling for a while, both in your own your own personal mod projects, but then also with like working with other studios, or not studios, other like
God, I wish.
yeah, modding groups. But when it comes to your involvement in the modding community, how did it all sort of like begin? Where I mean, obviously you said that a couple of your first mods were for Fallout 3. But
yeah,
with every modder, like they always start somewhere. It's Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3. We don't exactly have a large category of options. I guess maybe some people also, like Eleonora, also start with like Elder Scrolls and then go to Fallout. But when it comes to what again, your beginning, your introduction to the series, everybody starts, or every modder starts as a fan, and every fan starts at a point of intrigue with the franchise. So let's rewind and then walk us back through that. How did you go from, being born, becoming a Fallout fan, and then, modding? Maybe not a Henry David Thoreau, I was born in the woods sort of situation, but like, oh, I saw, Fallout 3 on a Blockbuster game shelf like I did.
Okay. So I had previously checked out Fallout 2 on a friend's recommendation back in like the mid 2000s. Kind of like I must have like just been in college, so probably more mid late 2000s. And it was before Fallout 3 was announced. I hadn't really taken terrible amount of interest in it. But it was fun. I played a good bit of it. Not a ton, but enough to kind of understand what was going on and how the game works and everything. And um, then obviously the announcements and everything for Fallout 3 were coming out, and I was like, oh well, it's at the time I was user of a certain website that is known for its let's just say toxic opinions about everything.
Neopets.com. I'm very familiar.
And so a lot of like that online discourse was just like, oh, it's just oblivion with guns. It's oblivion with guns.
Yeah, typical Neopets user. I'm very familiar. She thinks I'm kidding. I'm not. No, I'm not. I was just joking.
Eventually I guess I just like when it came out, like people would be like, oh, and so I got it, and I got over that, and I ended up loving it. Like obviously you had the whole like the original the No Mutants Allowed crowd back then, who were fans of the original games, crying and moaning and complaining and bitching about everything that Bethesda did. Bethesda ruined Fallout. Bethesda ruined Fallout. And that's war never changes, baby. I think you're gonna keep hearing that every time Bethesda releases a Fallout game. So yeah, I got to playing it, and simultaneously, I was going to college for game design. I'm not going to name the college because I don't want anyone to ever go there for game design. It was a ruse. It was run by people that were basically trying to sell you like, oh, isn't this a fun degree? It's also useless as a fucking used toilet paper. The benefit is I did learn 3D modeling software. I turns out I liked making guns a lot. I really took to it. And I like, you know what? I need an outlet to practice my 3D modeling because I would like to get a job in the industry someday. And I saw Fallout 3. I had used mods for Bethesda games previously, so I knew how moddable they were. And I thought, oh, you know what? Hey, what if I make a weapon for 3? What if I make a Dragunov? Ooh, I love I love the Dragunov. It's a really cool rifle. I'm gonna make that, and so I made it. It's definitely not my finest work, for sure, especially like compared to things now. But I did it, and I was one of the first ones to have that particular rifle on Nexus, and it blew up. And people still download my Fallout 3 mods to this day. It was a SVD, the Dragunov, a pack of MP5s, which I think is probably the most downloaded out of all of them. And I think the assets that have actually like held up over the years, like they don't look that bad. And then the ACR, which is like, at the time was really popular because of Modern Warfare 2, because it was one of the main guns in Modern Warfare 2, and people were like digging it, and I dug it too. That, for those that don't know or haven't played any of my mods or used it, the ACR had a really neat feature where you could swap the barrel, so actually you could change the caliber that the gun was using, in the field. It was a really interesting system, and I saw that idea. I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. That way, like, you can carry around basically like 4 different weapons at once. You just got to swap the barrel. So you could like turn your assault rifle into a sniper rifle. And people, the scripting was horrendous, but it worked. It was Oh god, it was a huge mishmash of if-else statements. God. But it worked, and it was that was my first foray into like other than just like integrating stuff in the world, actually scripting and kind of like getting with the community to learn these things.
Right.
At the time, Bethesda had the forums still, so you could talk to people on the forums and like work your stuff out. There was no Discord back then. Then, fast forward till New Vegas comes out. I got all these ideas brewing. I got all these things I want to try to do, even like before the game comes out, before I even knew like what to do. And then played the game, obviously, loved it. It was still one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm like, all right, I need to port all the stuff I made for 3 into New Vegas and make a couple new guns. And I did that, and that was the original ZL armaments that was released back in way odd when 2010, 2011, I think 2011. Long time ago. uh, and after that, I was eventually kind of like poking around the community. I had seen a trailer for like kind of like one of the earlier versions, like I guess a beta, whatever version of Project Nevada. Are you familiar with Project Nevada? Do you know what it did or does?
So, like, I have for a lot of New Vegas mods specifically, a lot of it is sort of like maybe not all of them, but like a lot of the more vital ones, in a sense, are like technical ended ones, right? They do something specifically on the technical end to make certain things more interesting or things more like run smoother, like different animations and stuff like that. I have used Project Nevada myself a few times. I believe it's been a while since I like properly modded New Vegas, but from what I remember, Project Nevada is effectively like it's a combination of like a bunch of different weapon mods, isn't it? Or was it a retexture?
So it's more than that. So it was essentially a complete rebalance, overhaul, like feature blast mod that added like a ton of stuff to the game and rebalanced it and tried to make it like more hardcore and also like add interesting new features. There were basically like different modules. There was the core one, which had all like the main like the equipment and everything. It had like all the main changes to the game, a lot of different balance things and features like sprinting and whatnot that were added. Then it had I think the rebalance was a separate module, and that was actually like changed around the combat and like made things did like that made like headshots lethal, which by the way, broke the game. um, different things like that. Then you had the cyberware module, which was an interesting. Looking back, it was an interesting choice to add, but it was also kind of like cool. We had like a little cyberware custom menu that you could like install different cyberware into that did different things.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty neat. Then you had the equipment module, which is what you're referring to, which was my baby. That's what I was in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
I did eventually like inquire. I'm like, hey, this project was really cool. Like, do you want someone who can like 3D model and like do stuff with weapons? And they're like, yeah, sure. And or gonna do stuff with graphics, and they brought me on. I did the for the main release, the visor overlays for all the different helmets and power armor helmets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I modeled 2 weapons for it from scratch. The P90, aka 5mm SMG, which model I still use today, and the rail cannon, which, looking back, not the most Fallout-inspired design, but people thought it was cool, and I still use it in my armaments mod today.
And so with a lot of these like these weapon mods, like you got like that's where you cut your teeth. Obviously, you with
Yeah, no, weapon mods are my bread and butter.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And so what specifically about like because like I feel like when it comes to modding, maybe not modding in general, but oftentimes when I talk with different modders, they usually fall into like one of two categories, right? They either are like specific asset designers, which in the Fallout community is very heavily, usually most of the time, if not all of the time, outside of, maybe like a couple of more unique modders like Degenerate Dak, for example, make specifically either tactical or more polished gun mods. For you specifically, that's where you got into a lot of your early modding. You said you had a propensity for that type of modeling. Was it like a modeling thing specific, like you just found it easier to like model or design for firearms, or was there sort of like an innate like pre-existing interest in firearms that just made it so like you're coming into it with more real world experience, right? If you ask two different people to build a car and one of them is a cosmetologist and the other's a mechanic, it's pretty easy who's going to have an easier time doing that.
100% interest in like guns and weapons in general before going into it. Like if you wanted to talk about the Genesis point for that, GoldenEye 64, doing the N64 callback there. But it's true. That I remember being as a kid like after playing that game and then like watching movies, I would recognize like the gun models and then call them by their GoldenEye gun model names all wrong. But eventually, yeah, like I learned what things were and the differences between them, and just over the years, like learning about different firearms and mostly through games. Like I truth be told, I haven't really shot a ton of guns in real life. I have. I've shot a Barrett 50 cal. That was fun. But like I don't regularly do that, nor do I really like actively shoot. So, but I was also a big airsoft fan, which are essentially pretty realistic recreations within limits of guns. So you mess around with those. That is one thing when modeling certain models of guns. If I have an airsoft version, or if I'm able to get a hold of an airsoft version, I will, and I will use it to help me model the weapon. One thing I do have to be aware of, though, is that there are differences between like the real life versions and the airsoft versions.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are parts in the airsoft version that particularly pertain to the fact that it is an airsoft gun and not a real gun.
Right.
So you have to like there's a very famous example of I think one of the AR magazines in the plate carrier on one of the Modern Warfare remakes. They had the little winding wheel on the bottom of them that are on airsoft magazines. So it's little details like that. It's very weapon modeling is very detail oriented because a lot of us are very sticklers. Like no, this isn't this, and this isn't goes like that. About little details and things. Which is a shame too because the industry standard for like creating a weapon in a shooter these days, like in a AAA game, it's like 20. It has to be 20% legally distinct. So, like, say you make an MP5, right? You're familiar with an MP5. You know what it looks like.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to just probably change either like just certain proportions or like textures or colors that you use just to make it like look like it has the vague shape of an MP5, but it's definitely not. It's totally something different that we made up, and it's not this particular like H&K copyrighted design.
So what you're effectively saying is that when game developers make firearms, all those people who are saying like, oh, well, actually, this isn't exactly like lore accurate or scientifically accurate, they just need to calm the hell down.
Well, it's twofold. One, they can't copy the exact designs if they're a really big company. The last time that happened was Modern Warfare 2, and it was with the ACR and the Chris Vector. Both of those, I believe. And since then, it's just all been fake names and slight changes to like make it not the same gun. I think one of the few exceptions actually is like the M4 because it's like a U.S. military thing. It's not really like a copywritten design.
Mm,
But I may be wrong about that. But
interesting.
that's the only time. That's why, like, if you play a Call of Duty game, that's the only one that actually has its real name.
So you started, or maybe not started, but like again, now that's where you got a lot of your like early experience, and then you got more into the not more advanced, but the bigger mod projects that you yourself were spearheading. And as I sort of alluded to earlier, you eventually, after a period of time, got involved with different projects. You know, Long 15, New West. You know, this, that, and the other thing, and then also, you know, as people are tend to and want to do in any community, but in this specific instance, the modding community, you know, you reach out and you collaborate and you talk with other modders and stuff like that. What was the jump from going from you know, your own individual projects into working on a larger project, either like, you know, a bundle pack, a culmination, something like Project Nevada, or, you know, something like bigger, like a world space mod, like Long 15, or any of these other mods that you work with. What was the transition there? But then also, what was the, I guess maybe the onus, right? Like, what inspired you, or what like motivated you to go from just, you know, focusing on the area that you yourself described as having an unbeknownst propensity for, to, again, those bigger works?
So it was a bit of a different process. And it really depends on kind of the project. Again, it's a whole networking thing, right? It's like who you know and how you're able to get like, I believe in Project Nevada, I contacted them directly. I think Schlangster was the project lead on that, and I contacted him directly. If I'm mistaken about this, I apologize. It was like 15 years ago or whatever the hell it was. It was a long time ago. Um, but that I got in touch directly, and he was, you know, like, oh yeah, that, yeah, like you do good stuff, so come on in. With Long 15, they actually did put out an open recruitment call at the time. And I really wasn't kind of in the middle of anything. And then I saw like, oh, this Long 15 project looks cool. I was like, wait a minute, this takes place in Baker, California, the place with like the big thermometer and the Greek restaurant that I really like. What?
So it was a location that you were already yourself familiar with.
Yes. So there was it kind of sparked an interest. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. You know what? This could be fun. Let me dip my toes in. Let me see what's going on. And that was like one of the first things I did for that mod was the whole like the Mad Roman restaurant, or Happy Greek as it were.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the interior and the exterior of it. Just kind of both going off of what I could find online and what I remembered of the place. And yeah, it was that just kind of went from there.
Did you find it
the Long
difficult
15
going from just making like weapon mods specifically to designing an interior space?
It was refreshing. It was a little frustrating, of course, because the Gek is frustrating, but it was fun to play with. I got to, like, you know, play around with it and learn its little quirks. Uh, but it just like, level design is also something that like I have dabbled in and I've done a bit of, but I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm a massive expert on it. But I mean, it was enough to essentially make and decorate and populate a few like locations and make them feel lived in, and you know, we had other people doing like object passes and things like that on it, so that, you know, it didn't feel like, if it wasn't like as decorated as it should have been, uh then they could have done it. And sure, what else? I did the interior of the Zayton Jerky. I did a lot of, actually all the interiors for, I think, for the Hawaiian King Hotel. the Hightower Mansion interior, but only partially. I did kind of like the main layout and structure of it, and then I think some other folks went in and actually decorated it and made tweaks to it.
And so like, you know, so like that was your first like major big mod project was
I guess if you're counting like DLC sized mods, then yes. At that released. Previously, I'm still technically attached to the Fallout Ashfall team. But I've done a few things for them. And they were gracious enough to lend assets to us for the Hawaiian King Hotel, which was really handy. And in turn, we essentially shared assets we made back with them. But that was like the first major project I've been a part of that's released, like for sure. And that I've like really put a significant amount of work into compared to previous project, which is why I ended up being one of the lead devs, the creative design lead for Long 15.
For Long 15. Yeah. What's like one project, maybe like, you know, obviously you don't have to go into like tremendous details or something or anything like that, if it's, you know, not apropos, but what's like one project that you were a part of that didn't make it to fruition that you're like, you know, really you're disappointed that it didn't make it because it had like, you know, it had a lot of like legs and a lot of potential, but it just for one reason or the other just never made it. Which one comes to mind?
The answer to that lies outside of the Fallout community, and it lies within the 10 to 11 year period that between essentially my modding arcs, as it were. It's like when I stopped modding for New Vegas, then eventually came back. In the meantime, in the middle time, I didn't have like my computer kept breaking. I kept losing computers for one reason or another. So I always had like just a shitty laptop, and I ended up kind of getting into doing pixel art. And I did pixel art for like about a decade. I would even get commissions for it, like actual paid commissions, like stuff I didn't get paid for doing 3D really. So I really pursued that, and I really kind of tried to hone my craft, and I joined I don't know how many projects over the years that were supposed to be finished or be done or you know just had a bunch of people on it, either contributing to it or being the primary artist for it that just became nothing. That just were abandoned. The last thing that I tried to do, I partnered up with a guy who was doing an RPG Maker game, because it's perfect for my medium. And I was really impressed with the guy's story, with the way the gameplay was shaking out, like the setting, everything was really cool. I really did think it had legs. I believed in it, and unfortunately, he just kind of went just faded to the wind. And no updates, no communication. Project just died, and I didn't do art for like almost a year after that happened. Just because I had put so much time and effort and like some of my best pixel artwork into that project, and just to have it kind of fall to the wayside and just to where no one would see it, no one would care about it, wouldn't be a part of anything, just really bummed me out. Then one day, I was playing airsoft with some of my friends. We did our post-game dinner at like some diner place, and he was like, "Oh yeah, check out this new tattoo I got," and it was the cowboy perk from New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh shit!" And it's like, "Oh, I remember I used to make New Vegas mods." And then he went, "Well, why don't you again?" And I was like, "Huh." And that little thought kind of kickstarted things and got me back into the scene. After a hiatus of being burnt by one medium, I figure, you know what? Let's go back into 3D. Let's see what's going on here and get my feet wet again. It was like the first weapon I made from coming back was a railgun, and eventually I released it as like a standalone mod. which I did for a few weapons until I decided to just put everything into one mod and one pack. But yeah, I guess it didn't get a lot of attention or whatever. So I was like, huh.
Do you still do pixel art?
Not really. I haven't done it like in earnest in a while. And I don't know if maybe just because I was just burnt by it or just tired of doing it or just realized that pixel art for the most part as kind of a trend and fad is for the most part put by the wayside. People still do it, but it's not like how it was like in the 2010s where you saw like tons of pixel art games.
Yeah, it's sort of shifted away from, because a lot of pixel art is sort of, what's the range? It's like, I mean, I feel like not as many people do like 8-bit pixel art. More people do like 16 or even like 32.
Yeah, they do
art.
like almost like it's not like true pixel art. It's like a pseudo pixel art where it is pixel art, but then you have like modern shaders and lighting things on top of it. And
yeah,
things
and like,
that weren't available with those games. It's more of like an art style choice at that point.
And like stuff like that still exists, but I feel like it either leans like really heavily into it where it gets closer to that like original like 16-bit kind of style, but that's usually like much smaller, more artistically focused indie games, or it leans more into like closer to like a 32 or even a 64-bit pixel art where it's a lot smoother, but you can still tell that it's kind of like de-resed. And if we're to like place it on like an artistic scale, it's probably a little bit closer to maybe like PS1 style graphics than anything else.
Oh, the PS1 style games are so hot right now.
Oh yeah, they've been hot for a couple of years.
They've been
now.
hot for a minute. Yeah. Like
yeah.
that's been like the thing. Are we gonna see like? I don't like. When do we start seeing like PS2 likes? When do we start seeing stuff from like that era, like be more prominent? Like, are we already? Are there already examples of this? Are we already seeing this? But just like going off of the whole like generational console nostalgic era with game developers, like who's gonna make the next like friggin' Shenmue remake?
I think it usually depends on like, because any artistic style specifically, and this is more so just like me just as a non-modding, non art doing kind of guy, speaking way above my station, I feel as if design art, visual art, always has some sort of like emotional connection, right? Every artistic style, whether it's in architecture, painting, music, anything like that, it always has some sort of like emotional center, or nostalgia in a sense. I think one of the things that makes classical music as successful as it is of course, the fact that it is the backbone of music in general, but also it sort of brings you back to a different time, similar with a lot of like older country or like violin music and stuff like that. But the point I'm getting to here is that I think when it comes to these older video game styles, specifically like you think N64 style or like PlayStation 1 style, they're usually tied to either this sense of nostalgia, like with a lot of like 8-bit games and retro style games. Like we're seeing just in general, we see every once in a while a sort of like mini resurgence of like 2D platformers and stuff like that, harkening back to like, Mega Man, Mario, what have you. But then you also have like on the design side, you have like N64 games or like some PlayStation 1 games, which usually internet wise are usually tied to some sort of horror aspect. And that in and of itself is sort of a recontextualization of nostalgia for horror purposes or ARG purposes.
Oh, you're making a horror game. Oh, it's in a PS1 style. Oh, it's liminal horror. Wow, daring today, aren't we?
Right, exactly. But like it worked. Like we see so many because it works, right? It's something I can't remember the name of the phrase specifically, but there's it's kind of like Uncanny Valley, but it's a little bit different. But it's you know, a misremembering in a sense of nostalgia, and that in and of itself could be looked at as, you know, a pitfall of nostalgia. It's never going to be as good. Like it was never as good as we remember it, right?
They say each time you recall a memory, you basically distort it further and further.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it
like
erodes.
little bits of it, because like I mean that's the whole, like you mentioned like liminal space and stuff. Like that's the whole point of like the back rooms. Like
Did you watch the movie? Not that I'm going to spoil anything, but did you watch the movie?
I haven't watched the movie yet. I went to go see Amazing Digital Circus instead.
I saw that too.
We're not going to talk about it, even though I guess we could technically talk about it, because by the time this episode comes out,
it'll be aired. Yeah,
it will have been out for like several weeks at that point. So like we could talk about that.
I know, no, just I'll avoid spoiler talk about.
Yeah.
That.
It was good. It was good.
The Backrooms movie was also really good. I would highly recommend seeing it.
I'm gonna go see the Backrooms. Sadly I've kind of already had it spoiled. But I mean, I feel, from what I've seen, I feel as if it's still going to be a good experience and something that is going to be worth my time and money. Point is, though, these sort of like artistic styles usually harken back to an emotional core, a draw, a trigger, if you will. When it comes to for PlayStation 2 specifically, right? Because you brought it up, and I think it's kind of an interesting concept, like why. Why do we see? I mean, I think it's fairly obvious to say. I think it's pretty obvious to explain why we see a lot of games that are, you know, N64 coded or PlayStation 1 coded. But I think that's kind of interesting because, like, PlayStation 2 era, like, it almost feels improper to call it PlayStation 2 era, because that leans so heavily into the PlayStation 2 era, when that same era was like the start of, you know, the Xbox generation. But
but let's be real, PS2 won that console era handedly. Like,
yeah, and like I think that's
without question.
That's the interesting thing. Like, because the PlayStation 2 dominated so much, but also, you know, the Xbox was also a thing. What do you think would be that you know, that core emotion or that core feeling that creates that sort of nostalgic or emotional connection to the PlayStation 2 you know, art style, in you know, in a quote unquote art style, because they're not, like, none of these are really like art styles, but they're technical limitations, because like that's the best that the technology was able to put out, but we more so recognize them as art styles in the creative sense. But again, to the question,
you're gonna see a lot of baked lighting for sure. Like, that was the main thing. Like, a lot of baked lighting. You're not gonna see much use of like normal maps, or like not even too much of bump maps for that matter. So it's gonna rely a lot on like the diffuse, or even like I know I'm talking like that's the color map essentially. So you're gonna have still a lot of like painted elements. And the resolution isn't like super high. Like, it's higher than PS1, obviously, so you're not going to really see a lot of pixel distortion, but you're still going to kind of see like a little bit, you know, just enough. You know, was there any game growing up that, speaking of, we're on this whole like subject of nostalgia games and whatnot, was there any like nostalgia game you had growing up that was like you had a real fondness for, that maybe like not everybody, like it was like not the most popular thing? Because I know my answer to this, and it's an N64 game called Blast Core. I don't know if that rings a bell for you or anyone.
That one doesn't ring a bell for me. When I was playing the N64, I was playing you know, Mario 64. I was playing Mario Party. I know I had like one or two other N64 games at the time. I can't remember what they were though. But I was like 10. And Actually, yeah, just about 10. So I was a kid. I was playing Sonic. I had other stuff going on. I didn't have a large sampling of the N64 games specifically. But like a game that like I really enjoyed that not as many other people enjoyed. Are you talking about like games that like didn't weren't carried forward into the modern era, or like
Yeah, like for example, take Black Square for example. Like the premise of the game is there is a truck with like a nuclear warhead slowly rolling forward, and it can't be like stopped because like it'll blow up if they touch it.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff has to be destroyed in the way to make way for this truck to get through. So you like go in various vehicles, like you start off with like a bulldozer, but then like you start getting like these like suit mechs and like crazier things to like knock down buildings and get stuff out of the way.
Sounds really like arcade cabinet game coded.
Oh, very, very. It was very arcadey. Like it was like not heavy on the story. Like just a bunch of different levels to fuck around in, and I think that was like the cool part. And a lot of them had like little secrets you could discover too, which was fun. I'm trying to think of what else. But yeah, like that game, for example, that really never carried on into modern day. Like it was kind of left behind in the past. They not too long ago added it to the whatever the Switch store is for old games.
Oh geez, I can't remember what they call it, but yeah, I remember. I know what you're talking about.
I saw it recently added. And I was like, oh shit, that's like I playing it now. I probably would be really disappointed. Like I probably would be like, wow, this isn't as great as I remembered.
Yeah, I mean, and like that's kind of what I was talking about before with like the like N64 and PlayStation style graphics. Like it's sort of like a recontextualization of the nostalgia around games. And it's not stuff that we see like in horror specifically. We also see it in other games as well. In kind of the same vein, we see it in like what was it? There was a game that was showcased during during the Summer Games Fest. I think it was called Hack 95. Yeah, it was Hack 95. And it's basically sort of like, what was it? It's like, it's kind of difficult to describe without visuals. But it's effectively the entire game takes place on like a Windows 95 computer, non-brand. And you're
I see what
and so like you're a hacker, but the actual gameplay is like a roguelike, and it's like a deck builder, but the cards are like, like do this much megabytes of damage, or like it'll upload a virus and this, that, and the other thing. But again, that's more of a like art style nostalgia thing, but it is sort of that same nostalgia tool, but not used for like a horror in a horror situation specifically. To your question though, like a game from my childhood, or my formative years, that like I really enjoyed that just didn't get carried into the modern era. Me specifically, I can't recall any, but I do remember being really into a lot of games that sort of had like a bit more sort of like non-linear story direction. I as I said, my first Fallout game was Fallout 3, because I just like saw the cover on like a Blockbuster fucking shelf and thought like, oh man, that looks sick. But like also around that same time I played actually, you know what? I just fucking remembered fucking Soul Calibur.
I love Soul Calibur.
Like Soul Calibur 2 specifically, if
Soul
memory
Calibur
serves.
2 is so good.
Which is really funny because I'm not a big fighting game fan. I didn't get into Tekken, I didn't get into Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or anything like that. I just didn't care for them. But like
Yeah,
for whatever reason, you know what it was? It was probably the character customization. It was probably the ability to like make your own character.
Well, they didn't add character creation until 3, which is I had played 2 first because 2 had like that was one of the first games that in my memory was a multi-platform release, and each platform got something unique, like a unique character. Like PlayStation 2 had Heihachi from Tekken. GameCube had Link, which made it immediately the best version to get.
Yep. Yeah.
And Xbox had Spawn.
I just double checked. You were right. It was Soul Calibur 3. That's the one I was thinking of.
Okay, yeah, I forget what character they added for. I don't think they added a character like that for 3. Sometimes they'll have like a guest character from like another universe.
They got this buff black dude with like white robes and a scythe on the cover. I don't know if he was new or.
Oh yeah, that he was an original character for the game.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. God, I had a lot of fun back when I got Soul Calibur 6, which was the most recent one for the PS4. And I ended up making all of the TF2 mercs as custom characters.
Nice. I'm trying to think of some other like older games like that that I like picked up and like got really into that just weren't carried into the modern era. Because I mean, like I feel like because especially like around sort of that time period, you know, I'm in high school. Well, then specifically, like, you know, middle school, high school. I remember getting really, really into Devil May Cry 3. Like I did like that
was pretty popular when I was in high school. Yeah,
that like 100. That was me in middle school too. That like that one like separate section of the game where you like fight your way up the tower and stuff like that. I got like crazy good on that. I could do that on like expert, like Dante Must Die mode, and I was just like flying all over the place and like, you know, just taking people out like left, right, and center. Of course, on Dante Must Die mode, everything is one shot, one kill. So all you have to do is be faster than the enemy or just good at dodging. But yeah, that era for me, I think was a lot of like really popular, maybe not popular, but like, you know, I didn't really start getting more adventurous with the different kinds of games that I played probably until I started PC gaming. And just over like the past number of years, probably I would say like since the pandemic, but it's been like, you know, a number of years since then. Nowadays it's more like maybe not nowadays specifically, but I eventually discovered that I had a much larger propensity for like city builder style games. And like for, you know what, actually I'm gonna
when I was a kid, have you ever played SimCity 2000? Like the old SimCity?
No, I didn't play SimCity 2000. I played the like, it wasn't like a remake or a remaster, but it was like the follow-up. That I can't even remember what the name was, but like maybe like a decade ago or so, they made it. And it
City
was
Skylines?
No, it wasn't Skylines. It was SimCity, but it was.
I always loved games where you build things, and especially since I was a kid. And SimCity was like one of my favorites. I would play it all the time.
Yeah, here it is. I found it. So it was 2013, and it was just called SimCity.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, I was about to say too. It got into a bit of controversy because it was DRM limited for a while, and everybody was like,
and there was like a bunch of always online bullshit.
Yeah, and people were like really upset about that. They're like, I'm sorry, this is a city builder, and you have to be online in order to play it. No, no.
That was so dumb. Like they shot at themselves in the foot so bad with that.
Yeah, it was
like to the point that I forgot it existed. Like,
Yep.
That's bad. Like, I think one of the most niche games I've ever played, because I hear no one ever talk about it in like years and years have been around, like people talking about games or whatever. There was a game for PS2 that my cousin had gifted me, and I had no idea what it was. It was called Shadow of Destiny. And it was kind of like like an adventure game kind of thing, but also like there's a bit of horror elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to like interact with people and like talk to people and find objects and like little puzzles and things like that. But it was like really interesting. And I hear no one talk about it ever. And I just wonder like how that game like flew under the radar so much. Like people just it was like it was one of the earlier PS2 titles as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on here. I'm seeing something called Shadow of Memories, but then I also see Shadow of Destinies, and
yeah, it's Shadow of Destiny specifically. Of Destiny,
which is kind of funny because the article that I'm looking at is from last year.
Wow. Yeah, it's an adventure game developed by Konami, and released in 2001. Oh my god.
Weird.
It's they ported it to PC apparently.
So back on like modern games and like Bethesda and the current fantastic gaming sphere and gaming community that we find ourselves in the Big 26. As a modder specifically, because I guess I didn't technically ask, but you did mention at one point that you maybe you can clarify. You had an interest in modding for Starfield, or you just never had an interest in modding for Starfield?
Nah, I I never really had much of an interest in Starfield.
Okay, so then you had like no interest in Starfield. That's fine. That yeah, that's a common sentiment from what I've heard. But when it comes to like other Bethesda, like I guess Starfield, or not Starfield, Elder Scrolls specifically, was that an area or a field that you got into modding at all? Because I know you said you started with like Fallout 3.
Like I tried to kind of dip my toe into doing some stuff for Morrowind a million years ago, but I don't know. Like I guess when it comes to like making stuff that I want to make, like Fallout kind of like aligns more in that direction. Well, because Morrowind's a fantasy game and it has its own, set style and things like that. And I just never like got that same enjoyment out of like making a sword as I did out of making a gun.
Right. Which I guess makes sense. It's a little bit more of a design challenge in a sense, right? Because you can make detailed and you can make creative and unique and interesting swords, but at the end of the day, it's a long, sharp stick. There's not a whole lot of mechanical creativity to it. But I guess more so in that sort of time period, maybe not time period, but in the history, in a sense, in how long you've been doing modding and stuff, sort of. I guess more so. The question would be, in that, expansive time between like when you joined the community, the modding community, what have you, to the right now, also encompassing your time as just, a gamer in general, right? Because I think it's interesting because I'm recalling when I interviewed King Gath, and I never really got the sense that Gath is really like, a gamer, but at the same time, he's an incredibly talented modder. But so, that, I guess that's more so to say that not all modders are gamers and not all gamers are modders, but you, like, I feel many modders are. And so in that sort of time frame, you've seen, multiple things change and evolve. The modding community, the Bethesda and / Fallout community, and then like the larger gaming community in general. When you look across all three of these crisscrossing, diverging timelines, how have you sort of seen things develop, seen things change, get better, get worse? What has like the broad spectrum looked like from your vantage point, especially as it, if if not to get like super personal or anything, but from your vantage point as it relates to not only your background but your current identity, and the like.
Oh, it's fucking bleak. It's not good. That's oh boy. Yeah. It gaming used to not be an absolute monstrous industry that was like, billions was poured into. And I think like as we evolve further up like the AAA scale, like as things get more and more expensive to make, expensive to produce, expensive to maintain, expensive to run, uh it just gets worse. Like I don't know what the secret sauce is. Maybe it is just, corporations throwing money at a thing and expecting it to be good, but really there's just no passion behind it. Or just the absolute like insane level of microtransaction and milking of an audience for a certain thing. Like if it's like a live service game, like how they'll just like they try to milk an audience, because it's profitable, because it makes money, and at the end of the day, that's what the big names care about. Does it make money? Great. Does it not? Get rid of it. Even completely irregardless of the artistic quality or love behind it or anything, just profitability.
Which is very topical, like right now, specifically as we're recording this this podcast, because just within like the last 48, 72 hours, there's been just the biggest thing in the news cycle right now, is the whole like restructuring of Xbox and Microsoft and all that.
Oh yeah, there's games that they advertised that the studios are going to die the minute they release.
Yeah, they it's effectively like what was it? It was Ninja Theory, Compulsion
Ninja
Games,
Theory.
and then one other one specifically that I remember. Like they're the like the big ones that come up in
whoever
conversation.
Was making E-Day, whoever was making In Exile.
Yep. Which is a big one because that's sort of like
that's
big
old
because
studio.
That's the studio that was partially spun off from Black Isle, the original developers of Fallout, but more so specifically are, if I'm remembering correctly, or have a lot of originalities in the Wasteland series, and actually did put out Wasteland 3.
They made the Wasteland games.
Yeah,
yes.
And which is the progenitor to Fallout. But there is, of course, like this. Again, this is all sort of like brand new news and information. There is sort of like the possibility that these studios will still continue to exist. They just won't be like owned by Xbox or Microsoft, but they can probably like spin into their own studios and still retain all their like, imaging and branding and stuff like that, probably with some like caveats for games that were made under Xbox's timeline.
Well, Microsoft, maybe you shouldn't have bought all those studios that you couldn't choose.
Which to your point about like creativity and productivity and stuff like that. Compulsion Games, the company that made We Happy Few, but then also hold on, it'll come to me. South of Midnight.
Yeah.
I did. So many names in my brain. So they also made South of Midnight, which we all sort of exist in our own little like pockets of the internet and in the gaming sphere.
Very true.
For me, South of Midnight, I like it because it's Southern Gothic, and we don't see a whole lot of Southern Gothic, and more so specifically Southern Gothic that isn't playing up the, it's not trying to be fucking like Alice in Wonderland Nightmare Revisited or anything like that. It's just set in the South, and it has an aesthetic about it that's very of like, Louisiana or like New Orleans and
like a True Blood-esque kind of thing.
Yeah. Funnily enough, sort of to get a little bit off topic, very similar to the Hellboy movie that came out a short while ago.
I never watched that one.
It's it's not the best thing ever, but it, I feel, is a lot closer to the tone that the comics were originally going for, because it leans a lot more into that sort of a little bit closer to like true crime, Southern Gothic kind of feel, you know,
Gotcha.
witches in cabins in the woods and lots of trees everywhere, lots of dead leaves, you know, this,
Have
that,
you
and the other
seen
thing. The point
first
is, though,
season of True Detective?
I have not.
Oh, you'd love it. That's
I've been
you'd
told
love
that
it.
a couple of times. My point is, though, that this, well, so South of Midnight specifically, South of Midnight for me wasn't, you know, the biggest thing in the world, but for a lot of other people, it was amazing. More so specifically for a very key specific number of people, the people who hand out the Peabody Awards. It was amazing. And that's a big deal because there's only ever been 3 video games that have ever won a Peabody Award: Journey, Papers, Please, and South of Midnight. And so you have a studio over here that can create and put out a literal award-winning game, and not just, oh, you know, here's an award from like this little games festival that like 5 people have ever heard of. Like, no, this is a Peabody Award. This is a major narrative award. And still that company gets the axe. To be fair, they did make like 3 games over like, what, 15 years? But as you were saying, it more so speaks to the fact that these companies are specifically primarily driven by titles that sell, not titles that artistically, you know, do well or can garner a fandom off of like a brand new IP, right? I would say that more people were spun into Compulsion Games fans off of South of Midnight than more people were spun into Bethesda fans for Starfield, to create a comparison there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like, you know, new IPs are hard. They really are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's so easy to be marketable on A, nostalgia, and B, just like people's familiarity with a franchise.
Which is like what we were talking about with N64 and PlayStation 1 style horror.
But sometimes it's like, it's not even like IPs. It's like, and this is kind of a thing with the game industry, because like certain studios have a certain reputation about the kind of games they make, or like how their games come out and how they play. Like Bethesda games, people know Bethesda for big open world titles. If Bethesda Game Studio specifically, not Bethesda the publisher, because Bethesda the publisher releases all sorts of games, but if Bethesda Game Studios released a game that was like a linear, like just something completely out of their wheelhouse, it wouldn't feel like it was made by them, right? Like they don't specialize in that kind of thing, so they don't make that. Another company that has like a lot of similar games, but can, I think, ride a new IP well, is FromSoft. How like, you know, the people make Dark Souls and Elden Ring and Bloodborne and all those games, the Souls likes. Like they can do a new IP, but because of the way they make games and the way how they feel and how they play, like you can tell that there is like, yeah, this is a FromSoft game. Like it has like all the hallmarks of like what that studio would put out.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's new, but also kind of same, you know?
And like, as you were getting at, it is very much indicative of the companies to focus more on the profitability, as opposed to, you know, the artistic accolades, because, you know, awards don't pay the bills. Sales pay the bills, and with that, we've seen a shift in people. I don't know. It feels like there's a stronger focus, because it's also kind of just weird in general, because you see. And as part of just like the evolving culture, you see people who are like, you know, like anti-woke people, and like what is it? People who just sort of like play sports for specific like large corporations, right? Even if it's not like, you know, oh, like I care about like, you know, like this social stance or that social stance. You see people who are just like, oh, I am more inclined to be interested in this game because it is seen as like, maybe not a slight, but like a challenge to like an already established like genre or studio. Like Pow World is, I think, a good example where it's like it's the Pokemon oh, this is what like Pokemon like should be, or like like
Nintendo, hire this man.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still it's got that sort of like like if Pokemon was made by fans, this is what it would be, which I think that's to be blunt and straightforward. I think that's just demonstrably wrong. I think that anybody saying that Pow World is what Pokemon should be never really understood.
I personally have not played Pow World, so I can't really comment.
I haven't either, and I could be wrong, but it just doesn't seem like it's a Pokemon game, right? It seems like somebody
It has very heavily inspired elements and designs, but I think the game in itself is a much different experience. Like,
yeah, and like
Pokemon is
an
RPG where you like battle other trainers, usually in like a set like order for a thing or whatever. I actually haven't played a mainline Pokemon game in years, so I'm not sure.
Don't worry, it's pretty much the exact same thing.
I heard I haven't missed much. But Pow World is like an open world survival kind of like buildy crafty that has Pokemon elements, and that you can get like Pokemon to like, or the pals, whatever, to like do certain
and like there's
things.
nothing wrong with that sort of gameplay and design approach specifically, but it is sort of like maybe not a misinterpretation, but a misattribution to what made that game more successful. But to the point, it's more so seen as like, a challenge, right? So you see a lot of people often lean into like Steam sales or Steam statistics or like whatever available sales numbers there are to make an excuse one way or the other to say like, oh, this game is bad, or, it's underwhelming. This isn't what the fans want. And it's just sort of a lot of almost pseudoscience in the fandom where they're looking at small microcosms of, different success or failure stories to echo a determination that something was good or bad in a sense. When it comes to things like that, when you're looking at like, again, the big picture of the gaming industry, I guess, where do you see things going? How do you see things changing with like different communities, gaming in general? And what are some of sort of the larger pitfalls that you think we as members of these communities would be apt or would in best judgment want to look out for to avoid in a sense?
Well, as far as the general state of the industry, it's, again, like I said earlier, it's bleak. Like, the AAA industry is in a real bad spot right now. All these studios closing, layoffs out the wazoo, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming, and it has not shown any signs of stopping. I talk with like, people that are like actually working in the industry, so I can kind of get like a pulse on what's actually going on with things, and it's not good. Like, it's probably not going to turn around for at least another couple years. Like, you're still gonna like, we're still on this downward slope trend, and we have yet to hit rock bottom. Mind you, also it's very reflective of the economy as a whole, but specifically the game industry is being hit very hard by that. And as far as what we can avoid in the future, I mean, it's hard to say. Audiences fall for all sorts of things. We get bought into hype. I mean, at least used to. I feel like I really don't anymore. I'll see a game trailer, be like, oh, that looks neat. I won't get too excited about it because things might change, things might look different, things might appear deeper than they actually are. I think we just gotta have like better judgment call. Like vote with your wallet. At the end of the day, vote with your wallet. One thing we are seeing the rise of, like AAA is in a real bad spot, but indie and AA studios
They're
are
popping off.
popping up more.
Yeah.
Mostly because they all got laid off from the AAA studios.
Yeah.
Consequence of that. But you are seeing a lot more of that. So you are seeing a lot more games with like kind of like a focused art style, or trying not to make something as huge or bombastic as like a whole Call of Duty game or whatever.
And are just like receiving actual like accolades and having like, like almost like Cinderella success stories, like, Baldur's Gate 3 or Expedition 33.
Yeah, those are in weird spots because they're not AAA,
Mhm.
but they're not indie either. And they are essentially AA studios that outsourced a lot of work and still had like budgets within the millions, mind you.
Yeah, they got a lot of crowd, or not crowd sourcing, not like Kickstarter, but they did
They
get
got
a
a lot of
lot of
private
like,
funding,
good investors.
but like still, the industry does not like the term AAA, AA, I think,
Mhm.
because they don't like using it. It's either indie or AAA, and they're trying not to like they don't really know what to call that middle ground, even though AA is like right there. So like yeah, you are going to see a lot more of that, and which I hope you get to see a lot more of the games people want to make, because that's when they're the most interesting. Not freaking like sports slop or shooter slop that comes out every year. Like it's the same shit, different day. Oh, got to do your camo grinding for your diamond skin or whatever the hell you're doing this time around to get all the weapons, and oh, you gotta make sure to check the store every day for that skin you really want. Like that's what game is coming down to some these days, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of buying into it. Like I'm no better than anybody else.
When we shift into more of the like, I think it's interesting that you were talking about like the double A game specifically.
Honestly, that's the dream. I used to want to work for a AAA studio. I don't think I want to anymore.
Yeah,
You're treated like a cog, a disposable one.
more and more people are definitely leaning a lot heavier, like both fans and like developers, right? Because it's still like incredibly hard to just like create a development studio.
Making a game is real fucking hard.
Yeah, and like start as like a new developer and a new studio in the indie space, because there's just so many. But I feel like with like smaller success stories, also like Schedule One, that was ginormous. It really does show that if you I mean, you don't want to rely on specifically just luck of the draw, but if you can focus on getting a really good like small independent advertisement campaign going, you can take a small project and just it can go places real quickly. But it all sort of starts with a core of like you were talking about before, making something that is designed and created with passion and genuine intrigue and reverence for the art, as opposed to just making something for the sake of making something. There will always be games and titles and things that need to be made to make money, but if the focus is towards making something unique or creative, it's just always going to be received way better, even if it's on a smaller scale.
On the subject of like something created with love and where you could like really feel that it was, what game that they really did that with? The RoboCop game that came out a couple years ago. Like you could tell that like the developers just loved the franchise and the movies and everything, and it came out, and that was like not a big budget studio either. That was like, and it looked great, and it wasn't the most complex game in the world, but I don't think it was meant to be.
And sometimes it doesn't need to be crazy or
No.
complex or anything. It just needs to be designed with it just needs to be made with passion. That's what any project
really
needs.
like.
It just needs to be designed with passion.
It shows when and it shows when it's not, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Zealotlee, modeler, modder, and creative lead for Fallout New Vegas mods such as the Long 15 and Project Nevada. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow to be notified of future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to help keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. Until next time, dear listener, I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all out there in the wasteland.